Hello and welcome to the Grassroots Coachcast, episode 11. I'm one of your hosts, Dave.
And I'm Ben. Good evening.
Today we're going to be talking about practice planning. Okay, so Ben, how have you been?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. So the weather's a bit better now, isn't it? So we're able to actually at least plan to be out for practicing. So and the matches. So that's a good thing. Just as Easter comes along, of course. So we've got no actual league matches or anything, but it's good. I mean, the weather's taken a complete 180, hasn't it? So
it's looking
good to be back out there.
It's a big, I've got no players over Easter, unfortunately, so I'm not training. Didn't train last week. I'm not training this week. So, that's a bit frustrating, especially as it's supposed to be tropical on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, be good to. Well, we've got a game Sunday, actually, which is probably a bit worse because it's our first nine-a-side game. So, we're having a nine-a-side friendly against one of the under-10s teams at our club. So, it would have been good to. I've had a bit of training for that, really, but as it is, we're going to go into it cold, so we'll have a extended warm-up, I think, get the kids there a bit earlier and try and work a few things. But, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock, I think, playing offsides and all the associated rules, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
I mean, you're pretty much a full 11-a-side game there, aren't you? It's only...
Pretty much.
Couple of players off the pitch, and you don't notice it so much, I would imagine, at nine-a-side.
Yeah, exactly. And we've already had the have you got a parent lined up to do the line type thing? So it's all happening. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of looking forward to having an extra couple of players on the pitch, and probably becomes a little bit more tactical, I think, and a little bit more. Yeah, it's I think it's 7-a-side, especially when you play on a big pitch. You can really ping the ball about and you find a lot of space, whereas this is going to be a little bit different. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Obviously you didn't get many for training last week, but
No, so I'm hoping I did try. I mean, I know it was Easter weekend, but I thought, well, we'll move. We normally train on a Sunday. Obviously, Easter Sunday would be out. So tried to organise it for the Saturday, but didn't get many takers. A few people going away and apologetic. So in the end, I think we had 4 that could have come, but it's just like, it's not. It's not worth it, really. I mean, we could have done it, and actually we have done it, even with 3 and 4 girls. But the added complications. So we've got a new pitch. And the owners of that little clubhouse and whatever wanted to put on teas and coffees for the parents and everything. So they wanted to make a bit of a grandstand about it. And so I had a chat with the head coach, and it's like, well, we're going to look a bit daft, if we turn up and we've got 4, we don't even have close to a full team. So so he said, let's just put it off till next week.
Well, that's probably sensible.
Yeah, but, frustrating after all the weather. Denied us of various games and practices, but just one of those things, you can't get too down about it. Just onward and upward for the next one.
Yep, absolutely. So the aim of the podcast really is we're 2 coaches. Dave's got an under-10 girls team. I've got an under-10 boys team. And we're really just trying to share ideas, share our experiences as we come towards the end of our first full seasons as coaches. We've both done our level 1 courses, which has given us a whole new insight into how we're coaching our teams, how we're planning, and all that kind of thing. So we just want to share ideas. If anybody out there is getting anything from the podcast, that's great. If people would like to share their ideas and get in touch with us, that'd be fantastic too. And it's all about sharing and expanding our knowledge and hopefully reaching out to other people and giving them the benefit of what we've learned, and hopefully they can take some stuff from that as well.
So today we want to talk a little bit about practice planning, not drill planning or training. I suppose training's okay, isn't it?
Training's fine.
Yeah,
professionals do it, so it can't be too bad for us to say that.
Yeah. So I just want to talk again, as you normally do, a little bit about, kind of what we do now, and how that's evolved for us and how we see that evolving in the future. Yep. So I'll ask the questions first then. So you train on a Thursday night, don't you? So
yep.
In terms of, so forgetting the execution of the practice for a moment, so take us through that practice planning stage for yourself.
Well, it's kind of changed quite a bit since I did the level 1. So my approach probably prior to doing that was pretty random, actually. I'd probably try and do something different every week. And although I think what I was doing was interesting and challenging and everything else, I don't think there was a theme to it. So I'd do, some sort of run around the pitch, warm up, which we kind of talked about last week. And then I'd go into maybe a transition exercise, perhaps. Then I'd do something a bit more defensive. Then I'd do a bit of shooting practice, maybe. Then something possession-based. Then we'd have a match. So it was all a bit... Although it was interesting, I think it was... there was no theme to it. It was just kind of trying to cram in different things that the kids might find stimulating. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think... Obviously, having done the level 1 and learning how to structure your practice and try and focus on one thing during the whole kind of session, rather than pinging things around randomly, I think it's been my approach to it has completely changed. And of course, the other thing as well when you're doing that approach is you spend sort of 10 minutes out of the hour picking cones up, putting cones down, trying to stop kids running riot when you're setting up a next practice, all that sort of thing. So I don't think there's a lot of structure to what I used to do. It's just kind of random stuff. And I'd probably just go on YouTube or some websites that I go on and just sort of pick out, oh, that looks interesting, I'll try that this week. So I've tried to move away from that now and have a proper structured idea in place. And I kind of start planning really at the weekend, even before we've maybe played a game. So I'll be thinking on the Saturday before we even play on a Sunday about what we might do the following week. And then I'll probably finalise that on Sunday, Monday, depending on how we've done in the game, because things might come out of the game we've played that I think, okay, we probably need to work on that, and then I might adapt it a bit. But yeah, so my planning starts a lot earlier than it used to do. It used to probably be a bit last minute. The day before I'd try and cobble something together in my lunch hour at work or something. So yeah, now I think about it a lot more, and as we've talked about in previous podcasts, in terms of building up that practice, to the point you can have your whole pitch or area laid out before everybody turns up, and then you don't need to move any cones around because your area is there and you're adapting your practice around your pitch layout, whatever. So I'm trying to take that approach now, and it seems to be working well. Probably the frustrating thing is I've not had enough training sessions since I finished the level 1. I've probably only had 2 or 3 in the last, what are we now, April? Yeah, so probably in 6 weeks I only probably had 2 or 3 training sessions. So yeah, so I'm still kind of learning how to structure it, but there's a lot more focus on it, and I kind of print it all out, I have it all laid out, and in Word documents and whatever. So I've got a copy of it, and I email it to my assistant a few days before, which I didn't really used to do either. So my approach to it's completely changed, really. So how about you? Probably the same, I guess, from what we've spoken about over the last few weeks.
Yeah, so I think, with our training being on the Sunday, and usually we played the day before on a Saturday, it's usually down to the week. So I mean, right up until you execute, there's always an opportunity to tweak the plan a little bit. But we'll try and have most of the plan already before even we go into the game day on a Saturday. I mean, I think I've told you in the past, that first session where I rocked up and I just kind of expected the head coach to just do everything. I genuinely rocked up with zero plan there. And so I guess going from that, what I tried to do, I tried to use, you get various cool, I'm going to use the D word, I'm going to say drills, because a lot of them online that you see are labeled drills, but you get some really nice graphics. And so what I was doing, I was kind of looking at those. I'd maybe take a quick screenshot of those and dump them into an Excel-like sheet. So it's like Google Sheets. Right. So you can just stick it up there. The advantage of that over Excel is, it's all up in the cloud. So it's quite easy for me to just add the head coach in, just say, have a look at this. What do you think of that? And so I'd put this I had a tab for each week. Now I did have different themes. So the themes I had like ball control, ball mastery, attacking and defending. So those are my kind of three blocks of training sessions, if you like. But I've said to you before, when I look back at them now, it's like, well, they're all just a bit dull. So I kind of post level 1, I guess I'm looking at it, and I just want to rip that up and kind of start again. But, I did have an actual plan that we were working against there. Now what I think I'm still searching at the moment, because I see, if you go on Twitter and stuff, there's various, there's lots of cool little graphics, and a lot of the times they're same for drills, and they are pretty cool. And I guess I'm still searching for a tool that I really like that I can actually use, a little app or something where you can knock up your little animations and whatever. And then have that and say, right, okay, that's next week's, and then just file them off. And then if you could tag them, so you could say, well, this one's, ball mastery, bravery, dribbling, or something like that. Then if, in the future, I'm sort of scratching around what, for a practice that I'm after, I can search, show me all the stuff with ball mastery. I'm convinced there's tools out there. I just haven't really found one that I really like and works the way I'm expecting it to work.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I go for the standard kind of Word/Excel type plans, the same as you do by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And, of course, gotta love pen and paper.
Yeah.
It's harder to share. I guess you could always take a picture of it or something, but there's something for me about physically writing something down. It helps me sort of think a little bit more as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, I kind of agree on the tool sort of part of it. The guy, Pete, our level 1 coach, he had a really good one. But I can't remember. I did ask him what it was. I can't remember for the life of me. I can't remember what it was now. But he paid some small fee to use it, like annual, subscription fee or whatever. But it was great. He had you could drag and drop little players on there and balls and cones and goals and stuff. It was a superb little thing. But I'm probably going to have a little look around and see if I can find something similar to that, because I think it would be really useful. And obviously the old tactics board. I'll be taking a tactics board Sunday.
Yeah.
That to show players what formation we're doing, because it's all new. So that's going to come in handy, I think.
Well, so that's...
What do you think about the old tactics board?
I think...
Do you feel a bit...
I think it's great.
Yeah.
But evidence that it really gets the message across. I'm still, the jury's still out, I think. So I guess I completely hear you, and I think there's a part of me that thinks it's a bit much. You know, it's a 7-a-side under 10s game.
Yep.
You know, you're not Pep Guardiola, but just having that awareness of where your teammates are, is usually the message I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
And so I do try. So I don't do it 100% of the time, but say, you know, before a match or in practices or whatever, I'll just quickly put the little magnets up there. So just to mention, I guess the tactics board I think we're both referring to it's about what, about a tenner off Amazon or something. Yeah. You know, and just brilliant little coaching plan thing, and it's got loads of pre-printed sheets on that you can use, and on one side it's got this magnetic sort of tactics board with loads of little different coloured magnets that you can place on there and move around and what have you.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll kind of move that, and I'll try and ask the girls questions, like, you know, if we're playing, say, a 2-3-1, you know, I'll lay the magnets out in that, and then I'll say, well, if the front sort of 4 players move up, you know, what do the defenders need to do?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll let them move the magnets then, and try and see where they move them. And for that exercise, it works pretty well, but I haven't seen it really convert on the pitch yet. But I think it's a tool that I think I'll carry on using. But obviously, you know, at this stage, I'm not too worried about, you know, whether they're tactically aware of where they need to be on the pitch. I think we've got more to work on in terms of just in possession and that ball control at the moment.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I must admit, I've never used the tactics board.
Yeah,
this season. Don't really know why. I've actually taken it to training a couple of times. I've never actually physically used it. Probably because, I don't know, things have gone pretty well. And I think, like you said, it's 7-a-side, and I've not really felt the need to too much. Well, there's probably times I could have used it, but I think now, especially on Sunday and going to the 9-a-side, I will use it a lot more. I think I've got that in mind to do. So things that I've thought that I want to show the guys, and, you know, how to move on the pitch and the different formation we're going to be playing and offsides and all that sort of stuff. So it'll probably come in really handy. Whereas 7-a-side, you know, there's no offsides, and it's a set 2-3-1. We always play 2-3-1. Everybody's pretty well drilled. They know their positions and that sort of thing. So I've never really felt the need to use it, but I was just interested because we discussed it on the level 1, and somebody said about it, and our tutor was like, well, why wouldn't you use a tactics board? Mm-hmm. Embarrassed about it. He said the people who should be embarrassed are the ones who don't want to use it. He says, of course you should use a tactics board. He said, I use it. Why wouldn't you use it? And it was kind of like, well, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, you do probably feel a little bit, probably part of me would have felt a bit self-conscious about it. Maybe. That's not why I haven't used it. I've just not got around to it. But yeah, it was just interesting because we had a debate amongst ourselves on the level 1 about using it. And there was a kind of mixed responses to people who do use it, people who don't. So I think it's a good tool. Definitely.
I suppose the kind of self-consciousness, you don't want to come across like competitive dad, do you? You know, exactly. Sort of with your tactics board there, and you're like, you know, again, speaking as if you're Jurgen Klopp or something to
I think
your 10-year-old kids.
Part of it for me came when I did my little league team last year. You know, this is like under 9s or whatever it is, and you know, it's all abilities down there, range from people who can't even kick the ball to people who are pretty good. Mm-hmm. There was one guy in our in our division, if you like. And he used to come down with this huge flip chart, and it just looked kind of comical to me. I mean, I don't want to belittle him, but it just looked so over the top for this Sunday kickabout, little league kind of setup. And he had this huge flip chart. It wasn't even if he had a tactics little board, fair enough. But he had
you mean like the big flip charts you get in the office?
Yes, exactly that. So it's just tall as him. It's on these stilts, and it's the ones you flip the chart back and.
Yeah.
Like you'd see if
like
you did
a huge bits of paper, not. So what we're talking about is like an A4 size clipboard.
I'm talking about the huge. If you're in an office meeting and you're doing a presentation, one of those. So he's there every week, even if it's raining, with this huge flip chart. And we all sort of, we're all me and the parents, and all looking at each other. What is this guy on?
And must get wet a lot.
Yeah.
There's not that many dry days.
It was just complete overkill. But, God bless him. I shouldn't diss him, but it just seems so over the top. I wouldn't even have something like that with my team. I'd have a little, the A4 size flip chart. That's all you need with the magnets. You don't need this huge boardroom type presentation thing. So I think that's where a bit of my self-consciousness has come from, thinking, I thought that guy was a bit of an idiot. What will people think if I have my little flip chart? But obviously it's not the same scale, but that just made me chuckle thinking about that. I'd forgotten about that. He's probably still there now on a Sunday with it.
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks, you've got to admire blokes who, and women as well, of course, who go that extra mile. It sounds like he's kind of going the extra mile, doesn't it? But I think I think, in all honesty, it's a little bit misplaced.
Yes, absolutely. But anyway.
But it's like any tool, isn't it? You just, I guess if, he's got that to hand, maybe in his home office or something, and he feels more comfortable communicating with that medium, then maybe that's why he's using it. So,
No, absolutely.
Interesting. So I think one of the accounts I follow, Planet Coach, not as in Planet Hollywood, but Planet.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I think that's a tool that you can use, and that's maybe the one that you were talking about. I'm sure I saw it's like about £4 a month or something.
Yeah,
or 36 quid for the year. And I've never actually tried it out, but you see them tweeting out lots of little animations and stuff. So maybe that's the one that your level one coach was going on about.
I might even drop him an email and find out the name of it, because it is a good one.
Yeah. So when you put together your practice. Like, how many times does that change before you actually print it out? And, I'm sure you don't laminate it, but you know what I mean, sort of mentally laminate it at least.
It depends. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes not. I even sometimes change it on the day that when I'm actually training, depending on numbers and how I think something's going. But generally I don't. I think once I've decided what we're going to do, it doesn't tend to change really. I might change the warm-up activity or rival activity more than the actual main practice, but I'm always kind of playing around with that in my head of what we could do. But yeah, the main parts of the practice don't tend to change. They're kind of pretty set once I've decided what we're going to try and focus on. So I don't move that around too much.
Yeah, and I think we're always going to have to think a little bit on the fly, aren't we? That, depending on numbers and stuff, situations, you're always probably going to have to tweak it a little bit. It's just, I was interested. You said you sent off to your assistant. Do you get feedback and
not really
the plan at all?
I do say to him, if you've got any ideas or is there anything you want to try out, or if you've got any suggestions or whatever, then feel free. But he doesn't tend to. I think he's quite happy to not get involved in that. He's just quite happy to come down and encourage the kids. And
it's not that you have a Brian Clough style of management, is it?
Yeah, I'll listen to your opinions, but I'm always right.
Yeah. We'll listen to what you have to say, and then we'll decide I was right.
Yeah. So I'm quite open to. If anything, it might take a bit of.
I'm only teasing you.
Me, but no, you're right.
Yeah.
Kind of, he's not really. But then he takes training. He took training the other week because I wasn't around, but I'll give him the plan. I'll say, this is what we're going to try and work on. So go and execute it. But yeah, he doesn't really make any suggestions. I think he's kind of happy to let me just get on with it, to be honest. So.
What would you say? So you spoke a little bit about the type of things that were in before. So what ingredients are in that plan and that planning process right now then?
Well, it's difficult really. I try and do a different theme. It's hard for me to comment that much because I've only had a few sessions when I've tried to plan what I call proper planning.
Mm-hmm.
But I try and at the moment, what I've done so far is pick a different focus for each week. So I think the first one after level 1 I did was decision making in the final third. So I set up a practice geared only around that. And what we're doing with the ball when we're attacking and that kind of thing. And then I think after that, I did more of a defensive one. So the practices will be geared around defensive stuff, just to try and mix it up a bit, but have a current theme or a theme running through the whole session. So I've not thought, right, we'll do, I don't know, in possession for 4 weeks running, and I'll tweak practices around that. I've been more like, well, this week we're going to focus on in possession. Next week we're going to focus on out of possession. So that's kind of the approach I've taken so far. That might change possibly next season. I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to depend next season on how we do, moving to a different format of the game, and that'll probably dictate how I structure my practices. And I can probably envisage quite a bit of stuff without the ball and organisation and that sort of thing, because it's going to be different for the kids. And I think in the summer, when we train in the summer, a lot of it will be around that, about the structure of the team and where we should be without the ball, rather than more possession. I tend to do a lot of possession-based stuff, but we're pretty, we're not the finished article, but we're pretty strong at that. And it's just more in those areas where we're a bit weaker. Transition, we can improve a lot on, and just our shape and that kind of it, and what we do when we haven't got the ball. So they're probably the areas going forward I will focus more on. So going into the summer for the last, maybe after the season's finished, because we've only got 2 games left, so I don't think I'll radically change training or anything like that. But after the season's finished, it'll be, thinking about that 9-a-side setup, and probably focus more on out of possession, I would think. So I'll be looking to develop the training around that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you mentioned there, I guess there's 2 things. So you talked about a theme for that practice.
Yeah.
Now, it's a different thing to have an overarching plan, or let's call it a program. So if you've got a 4 to 6 week program that's all working on in possession, that's different to having your theme to your practice. So let's consider that. So that's one ingredient, is the theme of it.
Yeah.
And then we've spoken about arrival activities, haven't we, in the past? Arrival activities / warm up. We spoke about that last week. And then you're building up different games, are you? Different little. I'm trying not to use the D word.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't. Yeah. So if we spend, and that's how I've done it throughout the season. If we're working on possession, say, I'll try and do different activities each week based around possession. I won't just do the same one each week. But that's not to say that I won't. I think I've definitely learned, and there's definitely scope to do a similar thing over a period of weeks and just tweak it a little bit, which I think is quite a good thing to do, just to keep that kind of continuity and keep that message fresh and the same, but fresh a bit, just mix it up a little bit. And that's something I've probably learned that I can do going forward. But yeah, generally there'll be a theme, but there will be different kind of practices around that theme. So that's kind of how I've approached it so far. But, I've got plenty of ideas on, like you said, program's a great word. And I think a program is definitely going to be what I'll probably do over the summer when when the season's finished and we're having sort of pre-season training, if you like. It'll be a sort of program. So it'll be, like you say, 3-4 weeks working on a similar theme with maybe a few practices that remain constant throughout with little tweaks, but there'll be other things just to keep it fresh that I'll probably introduce, but with that theme in mind or the program in mind. Used to going into a completely different format of the game. So, yeah, that's going to be the focus, I think.
And I think the other thing you spoke about there, so I seem to remember the FA call it the carousel method. I think was it I'm sure it was carousel method, where you build up the structure of your practice.
Yes.
So and I was exactly the same. So you lay your cones down for that particular activity. You do that activity, and then you set up for the next activity. Yeah. And all the kids are booting balls around and getting a bit bored and what have you. And they advise that the ball's supposed to be rolling for something like 70% of the practice, don't they? Something like that. So if you're setting up cones for a few minutes in between each practice, then you're never going to get that. Yeah. So I think that is, personally, I found that one of the hardest things to get right. And it's great when you get it. It does feel, you feel pretty good about it. You're like, oh, right, yeah, that's nice how I've done that there. But it doesn't just come automatically. You do have to think quite hard about how you can lay your cones out and then have it flow. Maybe move a couple of cones around each time, but you very quickly utilize the same space for different practices.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'd agree with that. I think that I'm still not there yet in terms of turning up. I've laid the pitch out and everything just flows seamlessly. I'm still, you might, not drastically, but still putting the odd cone down between a practice, but then you can send the kids off to get a drink, have a quick break, and you can quickly tweak your layout, and it kind of works. So I've kind of learned to do that a little bit, and if I'm probably more at the stage of doing that, I've got the general outline of the practice area, then I may still be adding on, removing a few cones here and there, but nothing like the whole thing like I was doing before, which would take 5 minutes, and that's when the problem starts. So yeah, I'm still learning that, and you're right, it is difficult because it's almost like trying to do a jigsaw puzzle. You're like, right, this is what I want to do now. Can I do it? I'll lay the pitch out like this. So there's a bit of, I guess, with experience that comes. And, like you said, when you've got that armory of practices and experience, you can think, oh, well, I can just throw this in there and still use this layout. So there's a bit of skill involved in that. I'm still not quite there, but like you said, you're still not there either, which is kind of comforting because you sort of feel pressure to think, well, I should be able to do that, but it is difficult. It is difficult.
Yeah. And I guess
I was just going to ask, is that I can't in my own mind make up if it's a good thing that you train the day after a game or not. I can see benefits to it, and I can see disadvantages to it. I guess if you could choose, you'd probably have a midweek session, I suppose, wouldn't you? If you ideally, or would you not? I don't know. It's interesting because you get everybody else who kind of does the setup that you do. There's another under 10s team. Actually, that's not true. There's one in the 10s teams at our club play on a Sunday, and he trains on a Monday. But I don't see him often enough to ask him. I might ask him how he finds it. But yeah, I'm just interested to see how you find that.
I think it's more out of necessity. So, I'm away quite a lot. The head coach is also away. So we literally can't do those midweek sessions.
Mm.
Now, one of the chaps who I used to work with, he used to effectively contract out the coaching of the team.
Right.
So, and I never actually quizzed him. I wish I had done now, but I never actually quizzed him on how much does that cost and like who pays for it. Do you get the parents to put their hands in their pockets a bit more? It doesn't seem quite right to me. If you're a volunteer coach, then you're the one on the hook to do the coaching. So, or maybe it was another volunteer as well. Maybe they didn't pay someone, but they effectively got someone else to do the coaching, and then they just took the matches. So that's another. It's another coping strategy to not being able to train in the week. Yeah, but the kind of negative pieces to it. So I'll do positives first. So I guess, the game is still fresh in your head.
That's always a good thing, I think. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. Good and bad, I think. If you've just received a pasting, maybe a couple of days off wouldn't be a terrible thing. So I think because we're doing the practice on the Sunday, it does dominate the weekend, and I think some of the parents possibly feel that's a bit of a bind and an overcommitment. Like I say, we're competing with all kinds of different other activities. These aren't the kids that I'm working with aren't generally the football mad, little Paul Gascoigne's just wanting to play football all day, and there's lots of other competing activities that they're interested in. So I think possibly it's if I had a blank canvas, then I would probably opt to train on the Thursday.
Yep.
And I've spoken with other coaches about this, that even, they feel like sometimes even practicing on a Thursday, the kids have forgotten by the Saturday what they actually worked on. But I think part of that is just, again, them being kids. But if you're playing on the Saturday, I think for me, Thursday would just be about perfect. If you're playing on the Sunday, then maybe Friday, but you don't have too many volunteers for a Friday night.
Yeah, practice. I find that maybe because it's the weekend, but that gap from Thursday to Sunday is very short. It feels pretty short, so it doesn't feel like you've trained ages ago. So it's reasonably still fresh in your mind. And I think, like we discussed last week, that's where your arrival activity or warm up, whatever you want to call it, before your game is important. And that's when, like we discussed last week, that's when you can start just refreshing what you did on the Thursday, so it comes back into the kids' minds again. Oh yeah, that's right, that's what we did a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's but yeah, a few days gap isn't too bad, I think. But yeah, it'd be weird. I'd find it odd training the day after and having 6 days to the next game. But obviously, it's
I think
it's what you've got to do, kind of thing. And there are good and bad bits to it. I can see that.
I think ideally we would spread out. So if we'd practice in the week and we play at the weekend. Yeah. Like I say, it's just a bit unfortunate. It's kind of out of necessity, really.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say, but I mean, good question. It's something, again, as situations change, might change in the future. But what I was thinking before we went off on that tangent was around the whole plan, do, and review. And we probably haven't had, like I say, too many opportunities to do that review. But for the few sessions you've had post level 1, have you done much reviewing?
I think I'm always reviewing in my mind, even when we're doing stuff and I think, this isn't working that well, or yeah, this is working okay. We could probably change it and do this. Or so I'm always in my back of my mind assessing what we're doing, and there's stuff that I won't maybe go back and do because it hasn't worked, or I'll think, well, I'll do that again, but I'd do it this way. Or I wouldn't say I've sat down and written out a little report to myself, in that sense, but I probably should do that. I just haven't kind of got around to it. But I'm always assessing what we've just done, and I put a lot of pressure on myself I'll probably beat myself up about it if I think it hasn't gone well, and I'll think, right, can we do that one again, but change it so it works, or is it just not suited to the setup of kids we've got and what we're trying to achieve, that sort of thing. So I kind of do it, but I wouldn't say if you're asking me, do I sit and write a report out to myself and log it away for future reference? I don't do that at the moment. That's not to say I won't, and I probably should do that. Because I think, and I probably will try and do it, because the more practices I get under my belt, it'll be good to go, because you'll forget about sessions and how they went. You can look back and go, oh yeah, we've tried that before. What was it like last time? Oh, I can see it didn't work too well because we did this. So yeah, it's definitely a useful tool and practice to do. So I will probably try and start doing that properly. But it's more a mental thing. I'll lock it away and think, yeah, that didn't really work, or we could try this. So yeah, I could definitely improve on that, and I will try and improve on that. But do you do the same as well?
Pretty much the same. And I was just thinking, I guess, in talking about that framework of plan, do, and review, I don't think they're not distinct phases, are they? We talked about, you have 90% of your plan, and then you get to the practice, and then there's a different number of players, below a critical mass, what you need, some circumstances change, then you end up planning a bit more on the fly. So you kind of very quickly, rapidly kind of planning and doing during the session there.
Yeah.
And then I guess not everyone does it, but kind of the way I'm wired as well. It's like, well, if something doesn't go particularly well, it's like straight away, like, yeah, that didn't go well. Probably won't do that again. Now, the question I probably don't ask myself enough, in maybe having that more as a review session in the cold light of day, because it's like in a match, isn't it? You not so much in the practice, but you're in the thick of it. I was going to say, in the match, your emotions you're trying to wrestle with your emotions all the time. It's not the same in a practice, but you're still in the thick of it. You're still trying to make sure, keep an eye on what everyone's doing. Is it going to plan and whatever? So maybe in the cold light of day, the question I don't ask probably enough is, well, why didn't it go well? Because if I just dismiss the whole practice, I might be just throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yep.
Or it might be, there's some little tweak that you could make that could make that practice better in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's more of a mental thing, and that review, that mental review, goes into the future planning.
Yeah.
Which I guess how it's supposed to work, isn't it? It's kind of cyclical, that plan, do, review. It's not a linear thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to speak to fellow coaches and find out how many of them actually do sit down and review and write out. I'm sure a lot of people do it. I'm sure a lot of people don't do it as well. I think just because of time, isn't it? It's just everyone's lives are busy, and you it'd be a great luxury to have that time to sit and think, right, I'm going to take an hour now to reflect on how training went. But you just don't get the time, unfortunately. So I do try and make the best of it, but I will endeavour to do that in the future.
And this is where I think, surely there's a if there's not an app or a website that does this already, we might be on something here.
There must be.
But
there must be.
If you have your little animations, and the animations are the cool bit that I kind of want to figure out how you do those. But if you just add it on your phone, and you're off out and about, and you could just very quickly just write some notes in, who turned up to practice, tick 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 tick.
Yeah.
Maybe even have your 4-corner model. How did these practices map onto that, and how did the individual players do? Socially, psychologically. I'm sure there's quite a cool little app that could make that really easy.
No, I'm sure. I think and these are all good things to think about doing, and I will. I think as I have more players next year, and hopefully the practices will be better, because I won't, if 1 or 2 drop out at the moment, it's a bit of a nightmare because we only have 10 players. But if you've got 12, 13 every week, it should make the practice planning a bit more rewarding, because if 1 or 2 don't turn up, you've still got a decent, healthy number, and you can still do most of your practices with that number, and you won't have to think on the fly as much. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll probably make me put a bit more effort in than I am now. And I think I'm always thinking about it now. It's kind of not obsessively, but whereas before I think, it's Wednesday, I better put a session together. Now I'm constantly thinking about the game, about how players are just doing generally, about the mix of player, who's struggling, who's doing well, what can we work on that can maybe help this player out. So I'm always evaluating in my mind and turning over in my mind. That's the beauty of where I quite enjoy my cycling to work when I'm doing it, because I get 2 hours a day to think, and I do come up with quite a lot of my ideas when I'm doing that, because it's quite a lot of time to fill a day. It's 10 hours a week on the bike. So I always think a lot about my coaching and that sort of thing, and how I can plan what I'm going to do. So that's kind of my evaluation time, and I guess that's probably when my reviewing comes into it as well, because that's what I'm thinking about, especially on the Friday, the day after training. I'm thinking, well, that didn't really work, and what can we do here, and what can we do? So I'm always thinking about that stuff. So yeah, I probably do spend quite a bit of time doing it, even though I'm not aware that I'm doing it, if that makes sense, because I'm just filling my head with thoughts when I'm cycling. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is around training and planning and football. So I probably am always doing that, evaluating in my head. But yeah, just not at a desk, sat there writing it out, I suppose.
For me, that thinking part is just an early part of the planning, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
Because you just have to think, what is it I want to do? And then later on in the planning, you think, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
But early on, I think there is quite a lot of think time involved in just, what is it I actually want to do and work on?
Absolutely. And, it's like when we're on the Twitter feed on the Coachcast or whatever, I'm always tweeting out little routines that people put on there. I think, I'm always thinking, a little part of it goes in my brain. I think, that's quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll lock that away, or maybe come back to it and think, I can get that into one of my practices and maybe tweak it a bit and do my own thing. So you're totally right. I think that thought process is part of the planning. I guess. I mean, what do you do? I don't think any of us sit at a desk and go, right, now I'm going to work out my plan. I guess it kind of. How does it work for you? Do you do it because obviously you're traveling a lot? Do you do a lot of it when you travel?
Yeah, I don't think there's a particular set time. Again, I've got the whole week, so I'll be thinking about that early kind of ideation stage. What is it we want to do, and then I'll probably look around at various resources. So we probably haven't spoken about resources. We spoke about Twitter, didn't we? We spoke about Planet Coach.
Hive
on Twitter. Hive absolutely is a great resource. So, once you've got past the what is it I actually want to do, the how. You can look to these resources and say, oh, right, yeah, that fits, or that fits 70% of what I want to do. How can I tweak that? I spoke last week, didn't I, about that Connect 4 game? Well, the game was absolutely nothing like it was Hive that I saw that on initially. The game was nothing like what we ended up doing in the end. But just taking that idea and kind of running with it in a slightly different direction to get what I wanted. So it's really throughout that week, and like I say, it comes later in the week when I'll actually commit something, and I might have little napkins or something where I'll draw out here's where my cones are, and no, I'm trying to do that less unless it's really just helping me sketch down what is it I want to do. I want to start getting more of this stuff onto the digital medium. So, I like with the Word docs and stuff and the Excel docs, I do like using the Google Docs just because I can use any device. So if I have an idea and I'm out and about, but I've got my phone, I'm like, quickly, I'll just put that up. Right, a couple of little bullet points here. Let's work on this and this. And then, I can log on with my laptop and have a look at that later and elaborate on it a bit more. So that's what I'll tend to do at the moment. Now, what I would say is if there's any listeners out there who've got any particular tools that they use and quite like, that are a bit more sophisticated, give us a shout out. Let us know. And, it helps other listeners, but more selfishly, I think quite looking forward to helping us as well. So, that'd be really interesting if someone does use something quite different. And like I say, I still default quite often to post-it notes and pen and paper essentially to get my thoughts down. But I believe to my core there must be something out there that's a bit more 2018.
Yeah, that can be our little assignment for the start of next season, to have a decent app or something or tool that we use to do our planning. That can be our unofficial summer target. Yeah,
I think so. And like I say, if there's plenty of things that are a bit like it. Yeah. And again, I've sort of tried a few. I've just not found anything that I'm particularly happy with.
Yep. No, absolutely. We'll find one.
Okay, so anything else on that?
I don't think so. I think it's just it's a constant work in progress, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. So let's maybe try and wrap up what we talked about there. Then, so we talked about the whole plan, do, review being a cyclical thing. So make sure and what we probably didn't speak about is I have seen examples where coaches just kind of do seem to rock up.
Yep.
And then just, so definitely advise against that. Even if it's, if you're driving and on the way from work, just have a think about it at least. And then you'll get the most out of that time. I think I recall one of the FA guys saying something like, that the grassroots coaches have the hardest task because you have the minimum time to spend with the players. Yeah. And you have, none of the facilities really, or not the facilities that the academies have.
Yeah.
So, you need to put the planning time in just to maximise that small amount of training time that you do have. We talked about not a mandatory thing, but maybe something to think about is to have that overarching program. So, if you want to work on in possession for 4 to 6 weeks, if you want to work on transition for X number of weeks, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
And that maybe helps steer what your themes are for a given number of practices.
Yeah.
And then we spoke about, some of the ingredients, things like planning out what your arrival activity is, and then what all your individual activities and games are within that practice. Now, one of the things we didn't really talk about, I guess, is where the game or the match fits into all of that. And I think we've spoken before, haven't we, about a lot of the time the kids turn up and they just want to play a match.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the coaches at our club, actually, we had one of these events where all the coaches get together and discuss, putting practices together and everything. And he just said, well, if they're itching to play a match, just let them play a match.
Yeah, well,
let them play for 10 minutes, do all your setup and everything, and it's like, right, okay, now we'll go into the practice. So I don't think it's set, is it? It's not thou shalt have a match at the end. But I just thought that was interesting. I've never tried that.
No, I haven't. I think I've never tried it just because I'd imagine the focus from going from a match to then having to do practice would be they'd find it very difficult.
Be a bit of a come down, wouldn't it? Possibly.
Yeah, because most of the time all you get from a lot of them is, can we play a match? Are we playing a match?
Yeah.
That's what I get from mine. So yeah, it's the other way around. I'm not sure. Maybe as they get older, it might be different. I don't know. It just seems a bit. We had that same discussion on in our course. Exactly the same words, pretty much. They want to play a match. Let them play a match. I think we all sort of looked at it thinking, that's all very well in theory, but yeah, I think the reality would be quite different for the age groups that we had in that group anyway.
Yeah.
But, I mean, could you imagine going to training and playing a match for half an hour and being told, right, now we're going to do a load of practices? I don't know. I'd probably think, oh, God.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe we've got it all wrong. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll try it one week and see what the reaction.
I guess think about how it would make you personally feel as a player. I think,
exactly. It would annoy me.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think I'd quite like it. But like I say, this is what was said, and I thought I'm all for embracing different things and trying stuff out. And I think at some point I might just try it out. But I'm a little bit sceptical, I guess, that it'd really work. But I
mean, you could play a match for the whole hour, but it's kind of it's a practice, and obviously you build up you layer in different rules and different challenges throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, stop starts is not just which is kind of another option, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah. So we spoke about different tools that we use. So we talked about the tactical pad, didn't we? That you can get off Amazon fairly cheaply, using word processing packages and things like that to just draft it together, move things around, and maybe print out and take to the practice.
Yep.
I quite like using the online Google Docs, just as I said, so I can edit them from any device, play around with them before I get to the training at the weekend.
Yep.
Anything else I've missed there?
Well, I think so. I think you covered that very succinctly there, my friend.
No problem. So let's wrap up then.
So thanks for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, please drop us an email at grassrootscoachcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at grootscoachcast.
So one plug I'd like to add as well. So I do have another podcast. It's the Comics in Motion podcast. So if you're interested at all in TV, movies or games that are based on comic books, then get across there and have that a listen. So have that a listen. Give that a listen. It's a little bit different to this podcast, obviously. But we're having a lot of fun working on that. So our latest podcast has just been posted up there. We had a look back at the 1989 Tim Burton Batman. And so that was very interesting seeing how that stood up compared to how I remembered how it stood up. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care now.
I've been Ben. Thanks for listening.